Go.
So, hello. So today is Sunday, May 14th, 2023, and we're at 32 Tompkins Circle on Staten Island with a noisy dog named Mike. And I'm going to attempt to the best of my knowledge to share what I know about the people and all the photographs you're going to see. And although I originally planned to start with something over there, I'm going to start with this, which I just got. These are my, I can't hold it and point at the same time, my Italian grandparents, Giuseppe and Giuseppa. You'll see them in better pictures of them shortly, and their 4 children. The original portrait hung in their house, which I remember from forever. It seems to have completely disappeared. None of my cousins have any idea where it is, so I finally gave up searching for that and took a very tiny snapshot on which the missing portrait hung in the wall, on the wall, in this tiny snapshot. It was not even the size of a postage stamp. And Tony Orazio, the amazing photo restoration guy on Staten Island, took this tiny photo of the missing portrait hanging on the wall in the background of the snapshot taken in 1954 of this, the original of this, which we think was taken in 1928, and created this. It's a little blurry, but it's still better than nothing. So, again, in this picture, my Italian nonna and nonnon, that's Italian for grandma, grandpa, and their 4 children, in order from your right to left, in age order: Yolanda, Eugenia, Oswald, who is my father, and Rose. So that's out of order, but you will meet some of those people later on. Now, next, we're going that way. So I came to live in this house as a bride on December 6th, 1980. I think that is the best wedding dress ever. The wedding took place at 6 p.m. on Saturday, December 6th, 1980, at the Community Church of New York on East 37th Street or so in Manhattan. And then there was a small reception afterwards in a restaurant, and that's where this photo was taken. So most everybody in this room are, just about everybody in this room are couples. That was intentional. So we go here next to our daughters. Bethany and Bob got married on September 4th. I forget what year. I think it was 2012, or maybe it was 2010. I'm not sure. 2010. And September 4th is a significant date because their grandparents were married on the same day, and you will see them in their wedding picture a little bit later. And then to Rebecca and Jason, and that was June 10th, 2017. Okay, then there's a reason for the order in which I'm going. So let's go to Daddy's parents first. Here they are. Their wedding picture, September 4th, 1930. I have to look at my papers. 32, I think. Or was it 34? 1932. September 4th, 1932. They were married in a church, the name of which I don't know, in the Bronx, because that's where her family was from. And look at that huge, huge veil. She was a saint. Josie was a saint. Now, so this is Adolph's father, Anthony, Tony, and up here are his parents. So this is Adolfo and Carmela. Carmela is Bethany's middle name, and Adolfo is Luca's middle name. So he's a Pagliarulo, of course. She was a De Palma. I know nothing about her family history. We will see both of them again in pictures on the stairway. I want to jump now to a different wall so we see his parents, because there's a reason I'm doing things in this order. So we'll go over here to his parents, right here. Right now, let me think. Right now, I don't remember their names. It might come to me. I think she was Irene. Don't remember his name right now. But look at that face. You can see Grandpa Tony in his face. I mean, it seems to skip Adolfo, but it's clear in Tony. So notice that this picture was taken in Benevento. They never left Italy. I don't know what year this would have been, but probably 1890, I'm guessing, around there. Okay, so again, their son was Adolfo. Whether he had siblings who emigrated, I don't know, but he was an immigrant for sure. I mean, I just don't remember right now. All right, now we're going to go back over here because there's a reason I'm doing things in this order. So we had, just to repeat, Adolf, his parents, his father's parents, and then on the picture you just saw was his parents. Now, here I am, over here, my parents.
And some teacups.
Okay, my parents. This is Oswald, although he was always called Archie, and Eva Jane, Francis, and I'll say something about that in a minute. This picture, they were married on February 23rd. I usually remember. February 23rd, 1943. Think about the fact that that was in the middle of World War II. And it must have been a tough time for everybody. Now in the missing portrait, the portrait of the missing portrait that we started with, I mentioned that his name was Oswald. It was legally Oswald. I have no idea why he got that name. But he was always known as Archie or Arch. His birth last name was Franceschini. After they were married, but before I was born, they shortened that name to Francis. And because of the spelling in Italian, the last name was spelled Frances, but was often misspelled Francis. At any rate, so my parents. Now, let's go next to my father's parents over here. We're doing generations in this way for a reason. So this is Giuseppe and Giuseppa, you met them first in the portrait of the missing portrait. Nonna and Nanon, another saint. She was an orphan. My understanding, and this may be a distorted memory, was that she was found in a basket as an infant on the doorstep of a convent, and then was given to some local family. Oh, this was in Italy. Both of them were born in Italy and emigrated here separately, although they met, I believe, they met in Italy. So we know nothing about her ancestry at all. My Aunt Jenny said that because Nonna had a kind of a, she had a bearing, despite the fact that she was probably not well educated at all and had a pretty, you know, I would say in some ways a pretty difficult life. She just endured with a kind of, I don't know, bearing. So Aunt Jenny used to claim that perhaps, or speculate that perhaps she was the illegitimate daughter of Italian nobility, and that's where that bearing came from. That's credible. And when I'm distressed, when I'm very distressed, I go to Nonna and say, Nonna, Nonna, because I love my Nonna and I still miss her. So, again, myself, my parents over there, you met my father's father, immigrants from Italy, and then back to this wall over here, you meet his parents, my father's parents, and I do know their names, except right now I can't remember. Rosa and Eugenia, right. Rosa and Eugenio, and you see where their grandchildren got their names from, because my father had a sister named Rose, named after Rosa, and he had a sister named Eugenia, named after Eugenio. Now again, these people were born in Italy, they never emigrated. These people were born in Italy, they never emigrated. Bethany and Rebecca are their great-great-granddaughters. So these couples had common descendants, and yet they never knew each other, they never met each other, and yet they have common descendants in the United States. I think that is an amazing story of how families come to be blended. Okay. Let's see, we're gonna go back over here now. You met my mother over there. So now you're going to meet her parents. I do not have a wedding picture of theirs. I think this may have been an engagement picture. And this is their engagement announcement. You probably can read the whole thing, but I'll just say that the date was April the 2nd, 1912. So that's 111 years ago. This is my grandmother as a bride. I said again, I don't have a wedding picture of theirs. So now you will meet my grandmother's parents. This is Charles Raymond Tice. So he's a Tice, so of course my grandmother, her maiden name would have been Tice, and she married Paul Hellman. All right, so my mother became a Hellman as a result. So in this, going back again to this picture, my mother's father Charles Raymond Tice, who married Magdalena. We think the last name was Mueller or Miller. It comes out different ways in different genealogical things. I don't know the date of this wedding, although in the family ancestry tree that Kathy is working on, that date would be there. They had 3 children two of whom you will see in a while. Sadly, Magdalena died of diphtheria, which was a dreadful disease before the diphtheria vaccine became available, probably around 1898, leaving him with 3 little children. I have other pictures of both of them, one of which I would like to show you now. Yes. Sorry, I'm not prepared here. He eventually remarried, and this is a picture of him. I just got this from Tony. This is Charles Raymond Tice. He looks to be about 60, I would say, in this picture, maybe older, with his second wife, whose name was Jenny. I think the last name you would pronounce Persson or Pearson. She was an immigrant from Sweden. My recollection, my understanding of the way my grandmother, his daughter, my grandmother, the way she tells the story is that he was a letter carrier on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, which was kind of a ritzy area. One of his customers was the famous Barrymore family. They were actors, still, who's the daughter who was in? Drew Barrymore, same family. So he would deliver the mail downstairs, down the steps, like maybe 6 steps from the sidewalk level, which is where the service and servants entrance was. And the downstairs, one of the maids in the house was Jenny Pearson. So she would take the mail, and eventually a relationship developed, and eventually a marriage developed. That's my recollection of how my grandmother tells the story. Did it really happen that way? Who knows?
And that's Gonky.
And yes. And so her name was Jenny. She was an immigrant from Sweden. She had other family here, but I'm fuzzy about who they were. But when my mother was born, she could not say grandma, and what came out was Gonky. So I always knew her as Gonky. So she would have been my great-grandmother. I was about 14 when she died. I never knew him. Now we will go to the stairway. That covers everybody in this room, right? Oh, no, we didn't do the windows. This is my wedding invitation, and a photo that we had taken in a studio where you could get dressed up in old costumes. And then my Aunt Jenny took the invitation, cut it in half, added these lovely little dried flower arrangements, and put it in this nice frame. It was a lovely, lovely gift. These were portraits taken for church directories. This one, I don't know the exact year, but this was at Grace Christian Church, so it had to have been around 1998. And this was another church portrait. This was at Brighton Heights, probably 1990, I'm guessing. Maybe a little bit or later than that. This was also at Brighton Heights. I'm not sure what year, but this was earlier. And I think one of these pictures may show up again on the stairway. I think they're both lovely. All three of them are lovely. Now we can leave and go to the dining room. The stairway. Now, everything from now on is not going to be in much of an order. Just kind of how things fit together. Let's start with this. This is my mother. She looks to be about 12, I would say. One of the things I like about this picture is the oval, concave glass. I don't know how. Something we did with the dog. Mike, come here. Good boy. Good boy. You stay here. Good boy. And she is with her cat, Skeezix. Notice that she has long legs. She always used to comment on the fact that she had long legs. Here's what I remember about this picture.
She was 4'11".
Yeah, right. She was short, but she had long legs. Here's what I remember about the picture, and again, my memory of what she told me, which might be also distorted, that they lived at 182 East Lakeview Avenue in Silver Lake. This was their house. House has since been demolished. And she was home alone. Her father would have been at work, and maybe her mother had to go run errands or whatever. And a traveling photographer came and convinced her that her parents would want a portrait of her. She was an only child. And so this is the portrait that was taken. He then came back a couple of weeks later with the finished product all nicely framed and a bill. So what could they do but buy the picture? She never liked it, but I think it's magnificent. Now we'll go down here. You remember?
That's Skeezix got in the picture.
Yes. We'll go down here. You may remember that you met my grandparents, Charles Raymond, his wife Magdalena, who died in the diphtheria epidemic. Again, they had 3 children. One of those children, the only girl, was my grandmother, Irene Elizabeth Tice. And this is a picture of her on some kind of a child's wagon, I would say. It might be a street of Manhattan. I have no idea where she lived when she was a little girl. But look at that lavish outfit, and that was play clothes, presumably. I guess children didn't wear then what they wear now. Okay, then let's go up here. You've already met Mike. Come on, down here. Come on, down here. Come on. Good boy. Stay with her. Good enough. You've already met Josephine Pagliarulo, Adolf's mother. And look at now that veil, that magnificent veil, and that beautiful bouquet. I said before, and I'll say again, she was a saint, and I still miss her. My mother, you saw them before. This was again February 23rd, 1943. I don't know anything about that wedding dress, but I'm guessing it was borrowed because, again, it was World War II. Everything was rationed. Food was rationed. Shoes were rationed. Rubber was rationed. Sugar was rationed. So to buy a wedding dress, if you were on a very limited budget, was probably not within the realm of possibilities. Here again are my parents. Now this was a studio portrait, obviously, and this is a casual. This was taken on the porch of his parents' house, and that house has slightly been remodeled, but it's still there. And that was on Woodside Avenue in Silver Lake. They lived there for about a year before they moved to their own house or apartment, rented first floor of a house a few blocks away. So there was February, but it probably was a fairly warm day given the fact that they're clearly outside and not looking dreadfully cold. All right, his parents again were Nonna and Nanon, Giuseppe and Giuseppa. Here's a nice casual picture of the two of them. My cousin Josephine said that my grandmother was always a very snappy, that wouldn't have been her word, but she liked to dress up. You know, she liked to look nice. And she does look very nice in that picture. Let's see, let's go here next. I don't like this picture too much, but the reason this is me obviously, the reason I had this done and framed is so that you can see the back of this best wedding dress ever. I just think it was beautiful. The pattern, I found the pattern in a Vogue catalog, Vogue made patterns, dress patterns. And then I got the fabric in a fabric store in New Jersey. And the dress was made for me by a neighbor, Mrs. Barker, a neighbor from the street I grew up on in Armonk. She was a seamstress, a highly skilled seamstress who owned her own shop in White Plains. And, you know, for a woman in that era to have her own business was pretty unusual. And I guess she had a lot of, you know, really good customers who would have dresses made from scratch for them. So I think that's a nice, you know, nice picture of the dress and Daddy in the background.
Was that taken before or after your wedding?
After, at the restaurant, yeah. We never did studio portraits. These are all kind of casuals, I guess you might say. Okay, so now Anthony and Josie Pagliarulo, Adolph's parents, with their first child, Camille, Aunt Cammy. She looks to be less than a year old, so what year was she born? 32, 33. So, no, we were married in 32, so 33, 34.
She's 89, so, yeah.
So thereabouts. Now, her parents were Louis and Rose. Louis and Rose Barnaba. Yeah, she was a Barnaba by birth. So these are her parents. I don't know where this picture was taken, but clearly a casual. Do I have another? No, okay. Here's another picture of the same man, slightly younger. And let's go, well, we'll jump down first. This is Anthony Pagliarulo, this man, you know, as a child. What's inside the frame is the way it was given to me, or I found it in a box of papers, you know, very damaged and not exactly framed very well, but I decided to leave it exactly the way I got it. this was clearly a first communion picture, and it looks to me as if something down here was actually swinging and was captured in motion by the camera. Not sure about that, but that's the way it looks to me. So now let's go up here. Before, I'm so sorry about this dog. You met Adolfo and Carmela. Yeah, you saw their wedding picture. Now here they are with the first three of their 7 children. So this would be Irene, and I'm looking at a cheat sheet here, and Joseph and Anthony. So this would be Daddy's father. So this is the first 3 of their 7 children. Sadly, after the 7th child was born, he died of what they then called Bright's disease, but it was some sort of kidney disease, which seems to have been inherited by most of the male descendants. So I should tell you who the other children are, even though we don't have pictures of most of them. So again, this is Aunt Irene, who married Dan, Joseph, who married Marie, and Anthony, who you know, married Josephine. And then there was John, who married Mamie, Mafalda, who married, I don't know who, Cammy couldn't remember, Luigina, who we knew as Aunt Jean, Luigina, and who married Louis, and Aunt Marge, who married Carmen. So those were the 7 children of that couple. And we knew almost all of their children, the 7 children's children, because they would have been first cousins of Adolf.
Aunt Muffy married Pistol. Pete was the second husband. And somebody Driscoll prior to that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, so let's start up here. My grandfather, Giuseppe Franceschini, who I knew as Nanon. He was in the ice business and had his own business, very successful in a small town, Silver Lake, a suburb of White Plains. And then along came the Depression, and some customers couldn't pay, and meanwhile the wealthier customers had moved on to refrigerators, and that was the end of his business. So they had to sell the house they didn't sell the house initially. My understanding is they stayed in the house that they'd had built when they had money, but they had to take in boarders who were single men who just rented a room, and then my grandmother was not only cooking and cleaning for 4 children, but she was cooking and cleaning for 4 children and all the boarders. So I said earlier, her life was never easy. This is my father. I'm guessing this was taken around 1940, 45, in that era. I don't know what this pin was for. And again, this is Tony Pagliarulo. Yeah, all right. So, here's my great-grandfather, Charles Raymond Tice. Don't know the occasion for the boutonniere. Is it possible that this was his second wedding? Maybe. No way of knowing. Here is my grandfather. This is the first time you've seen a picture of him because I don't have their wedding portrait. His name was Paul Hellman Jr. I know that he had no brothers. He had 4 sisters. His parents were immigrants from Germany. I don't know much more than that about his heritage. Maybe someday I'll get into the family tree and be able to do that. We'll meet any of his family.